Hi everyone, Michigan here, welcome back to the channel, and a double dosage replay for you in the brand new Type 71. Now I immediately free XP'd this tank, and I've had some very high hopes for it, both in randoms and in competitive play, and today I'm going to show you two of my best games so far out of the 10 that I have played. The Type 71 is one of the first vehicles, if not the first vehicle, to have a double special mechanic. This tank has the gun cooling system, which when you let the gun reload for a couple extra seconds, vastly increases its accuracy at the expense of its damage per minute. And now it also has the hydrodynamic suspension that you'll know from the STB1, which when you, again, allow the tank to sit still for a second, will increase the gun impression by raising up the back of the tank, or the gun elevation by raising up the front of the tank. Now that means that this tank can be quite tricky to play, as when you're not stationary, neither of these effects are active. Obviously the gun cooling is, but you're not going to get that improved accuracy on the move as you would when it's stationary. So we're here on Himmelsdorf in a tier 9 game, so nothing special, and I've decided to go up on the hill. Didn't expect the KPZ there to stop, so I'm going to slam it to him, kindly going around his right side, little beep beep there, and hopefully he's going to let me play. Now, this was one of my first games. I believe this was my third game I played in this vehicle. And you can see here, I've gone to not the best position on Himmelsdorf to play a tank that should be hold down. Now, the reason you have to play this vehicle hold down is because, well, the turret armor is fantastic. The hull armor is pretty terrible. So, if you're playing on flat ground, expect enemies to go right through your front. Now, this vehicle has a base gun depression value, sorry, I was looking for the word there, gun depression value of 7 degrees, which isn't that great. It's less than the VZ, less than the KPZ. There's the blimp exploding. However, once you get that hydrodynamic suspension working, I've actually stopped playing to observe this. This is my first time seeing it. Pretty cool there. Once you get that hydrodynamic suspension going, it actually increases that to 12 degrees, which is comparable with almost the Kranwagen, which I believe has 13 or 14. So you can see, again, I'm trying to work a corner that just isn't going to work. You can see I haven't quite gotten the feeling of the tank yet. It should be noted that the Type 71 is a little slower than a lot of its gun depression counterparts. It sort of feels more like a Minotauro rather than a Chieftain or a KPZ, and it still even feels a little bit slower than the S-Con. Unfortunate game there for the CS59. I'm going to get my first shot in there. Now, I had the gun cooling mechanic, but just a little too high there. I'm going to shoot the E-Force frontal plate. And now you're going to see what this tank is able to do. Now, my dispersion is 0.37, I believe. However, base, it's 0.39. And I've opted to go with vents, a turbo, and a rammer. Now, maybe I should be bringing vertical stabilizer. I'm not sure what equipment I should bring, so I just have that until I find out otherwise. Now, I'm not using the gun mechanic here, the gun cooling mechanic, I should say, because we're at close range. Now, without the gun cooling mechanic, you have a base DPM of 3,300. Actually, not 3,300. I'm not sure what it is base, but that's mine. And that's with a fairly standard crew, brothers in arms, gun rammer, nothing special. So at short ranges, this is great because you don't need to use that gun cooling. And you know that you'll just be able to pen because it's such close range. Same reason why on a lot of my heavy tanks, I'll throw out the accuracy because I know I am shooting from up close. But you will see what this tank is able to do once I have to start sniping cupolas and I really use that gun mechanic. So you can see they're looking for the top, and I should have waited there probably, but I saw the scent was backing up, so I didn't quite bother. Now you can see here, the way you want to play this tank is with that gun being just above. Now the gun sits fairly low on the turrets, so there isn't much below. So if you poke up too high, then you're going to be able to get your turret ring or your hull. So that's something to keep in mind. Now you can also see I'm looking at my cupola there. Now that is one of the weak points. It's not the biggest weak point. However, it is still there. Now I'm raising my gun up in the air to try and cover it. Looking for him, you can see the gun cooling mechanic there allowing me to get an easy snipe, and I am trading against the Cent-AX. Now, he has swapped to shooting straight heat, so that isn't really going to help my chances, and I'm still looking, trying to figure out what I can shoot at. Gun cooling mechanic is back up, Cent-AX backs up just a little bit, so I am not able to get the shot in. Their team is up a little bit on HP, but down by 2 tanks, and now the HP is almost even, so this is going to be a tough game. T95 has made it into the enemy's cap circle, but I am not so sure how long that will last. And looking again, the Sente X seems to really want to poke, and if you see that double circle there, the bigger circle is without the gun cooling, and the smaller one is with it. Now, it should be noted that once that gun cooling goes into effect, you can't just fire, because it takes about another second for that mechanic to get into effect, right? That circle somehow has to go from being bigger to being smaller, and that takes a second for it to shrink down. So that's just something to keep in mind. Just because the gun cooling mechanic is active doesn't mean that it's ready to go. Now I'm looking to engage this E3. I made a bit of a mistake there. I should have just sat in that back corner rather than trying to push out here. I'm not sure what I thought I was going to do against this E3, but with this game being a little bit close, I guess I was hoping that maybe he would shoot and I would be able to push up and maybe nab him. Maybe he'd shoot that KPZ behind me. Now I'm looking across. I see the Concept and the Foch are pretty much low, and the T95 has been taken out, so I'm going to actually start backing up. Now, this tank's reverse speed isn't horrible at 15 degrees, or 15 kilometers an hour, but it's definitely not perfect. So instead what I'm going to do is try and help out this Foch with the T71. Foch is probably going to die, but I know if that T71 comes up the 3-line, I can actually shoot him. And right now I'm starting to look for this TL7, but it doesn't seem like he wants to poke, and especially taking a big hit from the Concept 5, he's definitely going to be hanging out around that corner. And what that does is it leaves the KPZ, who I didn't realize had left, alone against that E3. Now with the KPZ leaving, that means there's nothing on that back corner. The Pat in the tank is not doing so hot, and I am looking here for this T71. Now you can see I'm holding down the right mouse to take a quick look, and looks like that Type 71 wants to leave. I think he's waiting to be unspotted, but something's definitely still lighting him. I'm not entirely sure what. However, I'm just waiting. I know he's going to have to come out at some point. There we go, gun cooling mechanic right into his back. I was hoping for maybe an engine shot or a fire, and he's going to keep going. He's going to stop behind the other building, but again, I know he has to come out from that building at some point as well, which is why usually you should traverse up the 2-line rather than the 3-line. So I'm going to back up just a little bit, get my gun as close to that rock wall as possible, and there he is. He got a little bit higher than I thought, and putting in a nice roll there for 374. That puts me up to 3,300 damage and 3,200 blocked. I know he's going to have to come out again, so I'm going to manage to get my third shot in there right before he angles and gets into the cover of the buildings. Now, if I was paying attention here, I might be able to get a third shot, but I saw him tuck into the buildings, and instead I'm going to turn my attention to the TL7. TL7 backs up, looking for a shot, not going to take it. There's a Type 71. Probably could have gotten a shot in there. Actually, I know I would have, if not the kill. However, I was too focused on this TL7. Now, the KPZ again has left his spot, leaving the Pat in the tank, one of the worst Tier 9 tanks, against that E3. Looking for a shot there in the E3. Don't quite have the gun depression, but I know that the Leopard's going to be poking out. So with my gun cooling mechanic, I'm going to pull one right through his turret. Now this tank doesn't have the greatest rounds either. It has APCR, which hits for 400, but only has 260 pen, and the APCR rounds only have 320 pen, so they're not the greatest. Now again, looking for that gun cooling mechanic. Very lucky there that that E3 actually shot one into the dirt, because my hull was very, very exposed. And again, you have to wait for that what do you call it, the suspension to reactivate. The hydropneumatic suspension. So I actually got a lucky shot in there against the Sente X. I figured I'd just pull the trigger. Maybe it would hit, maybe it wouldn't. And big mistake there. I took a huge hit, 745 from the E3. I'm not sure where he hit me, but that is going to be a massive hit to our team, given that I was the only one on the team who could actually take a hit other than that KPZ. So instead what I'm going to do is, since the E3 has now turned his attention to the KPZ, I'm going to work around the back of him, and it should be an easy shot, especially with that gun cooling mechanic into the back of the E3 for 263, finishing him off and evening out the score. Now the enemy team is about to take out this Concept 5, who is actually, sorry, not the Concept 5, they killed the S-Conk down there. And what I'm going to do instead is I need to get across and try and cover the beeline where this Concept 5 is. Now the KPZ is also coming down here. I'm going to look with the Concept 5. Concept 5 needs to take that 430U out. Unfortunately, he's not going to, and that's going to be extremely risky. So with the 430U leaving, that guy will sit on cap and will have no way. So what I need to do is leave before the E3 gets here. There's the E3. He's not paying attention. Put one into him, and now I just need to sit on the corner. And unfortunately, I went too far. What I should have done is waited. And that is going to be game over for me, finishing with 5,000 damage, 3,660 blocked, and 844 assist. We'll speed this up as the rest of the team finishes it off. Just go to ×4, ×3, and there's the KPZ. They're still dealing with a Leopard. Cap's down to 25. There's the 430U. They're both still chasing the Leopard for some reason. KPZ finishes him off, and the Cap goes down to 0, leaving the KPZ against an E3. And actually, the Concept 5 killed the 430U, but it was too late as the Cap was already expired, so we're going to lose this one. So not a bad result to start. Let's take a quick look at the postgame. Well, World of Tanks replays was broken, so unfortunately, I was unable to show you that previous postgame, and I won't be able to show you this one. If I was smart, I would have recorded them in the garage, but since I've closed World of Tanks and I'm now in the replay section, I will be unable to do that. So, unfortunate there. However, we're going to shift our attention over here to Lakeville, where this is a game that I just finished about 15 minutes ago. Well, probably a couple hours ago when you're watching this, or maybe days or weeks or years, who knows. But again, I'm here in the T71 going down the 2 line on Lakeville, or the dreaded Camp Valley. And now I'm going to show you what the T71 is able to do against especially lower tiered opponents and equal ones when you're able to put it in a position that really uses its gun depression and the gun cooling mechanic. So that is going to be the focus of this replay rather than just raw play. So immediately right off the bat, I'm going to spark the 261, and right before I fire, an E4 actually takes my gun out, and I am going to be unable to finish him off. Trying to take another shot at 261, again, not going to be able to handle it, and it's going to be a little bit of a rough start. S-Con comes around the corner, tracks me, so I don't actually have the gun depression, and okay start getting one into the artillery. Hopefully we'll be able to finish him off later, but we're going to fall back to a little bit of a less aggressive position. The Cobra finishes off the PR-07, that tier 9, I think it's sort of like a German Sturv thing. You don't see very many of those. Instead, we're going to think about poking on the Super Conqueror, and instead I'm going to try and focus on one of the things I've been working on, which is not losing health super early in the battle. I've taken one hit in exchange to try and kill the artillery. I feel that that was worth it. However, with my repair kit not being up, I am going to mainly focus on just conserving my health. Waiting there again, you gotta remember that there's a jump when you're using your hydropneumatic suspension, so I'm going to wait on the WZ so I accidentally don't hit his lower plate. And luckily there, the E4 dunks into the rock. Seems familiar from the previous game, doesn't it? Getting a little lucky, but the S-Conk has decided to come around the corner. I know I'm not going to be able to avoid the hit, so what I do is I just pull forward, make sure I hit him, put one through his drive wheel, and here comes the E4. Very aggressive team today, looking to track him. Unfortunately, going to take a big hit there. Luckily, it was a low roll, though, 666, and instead I'm going to pull back to a little bit more of a defensive position, as I have lost a little more health than I would like early. What is nice, though, is that I've done 1,641, already blocked almost 2,000, and assisted just over 1,000 with my drive wheel shots, which is actually one of my favorite things to do in this game. Sometimes I'll actually track somebody rather than shooting them, because I know that the assistance damage I'll get will be more valuable than the XP. Looking for that 430, not the greatest tank to be playing up there, as it really doesn't have any gun depression, and the hull armor is very limited. He's going to be exposing his lower plate every time he comes up. GW finishes off the 261. Big shout out to that GW there. Kafus Prey, I don't know, thank you for finishing him out. I was kind of leery of that guy using the 12 degrees right into the lower plate of the 430, who wants to come over the top. SU-130 finishes him off. Goodbye, tier 9 Russian medium. Alright, what's next? Well, there's nothing right up here, but our team is up 7-1 and 6,000 hit points. So now we're going to go into sniping, and you can see the gun cooling mechanic is active. Unfortunately, going to miss that one, but we'll see how the other shots do. You can see how small that aiming circle is in regards to that cupola. It pretty much, the cupola fills up most of that aiming circle, which is pretty nice. I believe my accuracy is down to .27. Now this SU-130 wants to get in here for some reason. I understand he wants damage, but this is not a tank I'd be playing up there. So he's going to kind of steal my position for a second, but he's going to back off, looking for another shot on that Sente X. And as I'm unspotted, 381 right into his cupola. Now, that's about 200 meters, I believe, so that would be a difficult shot. And the nice thing is you know, when you have grill accuracy and the gun depression, it makes that gun feel incredibly flexible, which is super nice. Now, again, I'm really trying to focus on keeping my turret up. Another good shot there in the Sente X. What a high roll there. Almost maxing out a high roll. I believe this tank can roll for 500 or 499, and that is it. So 46 is a nice roll. Not sure where that shell went. 463. If I had waited, I might have been able to snag that kill from the Jagdpanzer, but it is not going to happen there. Here comes the E4, looking for him. He wants to turn his turret, putting one in right behind his gunmail, and Jagdpanzer's coming around. Jagdpanzer's still looking. He must still be on reload. E4 is now looking for me, but luckily with a 7.5 second reload, I'm able to finish off the E4. 263 takes a punt at me. Now this tank isn't too bad. I think its ground resistances aren't great. I mean, no tank is really that quick through the swamp. 12-3. We're going to speed this up a little bit. The AMX-30 is going to finish off the 263, and the TVP is going to finish off the Turtle 1. So finishing there with 3,854 damage, 2,000 blocked, and 2,400 assist for another solid replay. So I hope you enjoyed this replay. Definitely a fun tank to play. I'd highly recommend it, and I think there is a competitive use for this vehicle. I'll be trying it out tonight in advances. Keep a lookout for that as I showcase the games where I use the Type 71 while I'm playing it. That's all for now. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.